What's up, everyone? Troy Benjamin of Backup Barista, and welcome to Round Cup Chat, where we brew over all the grinding stories from the eyes of your coffee community. From roasters, suppliers, baristas, cafe owners, importers, consumers, it's 45 minutes of fire, daily at 3 p.m. Watch the replays on YouTube, Spotify, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Now, let's meet today's guest.
Got there.
Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yeah, my camera wasn't working.
How's things with you?
Good, pretty good considering considering everything that's been going on. Yep. I work from home these days, and I also homeschool a little boy. So
Yeah, right.
That's that's the state of things for us at the moment. Yep.
You're on that level of carnage and.
Yeah, well, luckily for us, Rumble's just around the corner from my home, so it's like on the next block. So
Yeah, cool.
I go in there every morning and do some work, and we do some school at Rumble, and then we come home, we carry on, and you just kind of make the most of it, I guess. Yeah.
Joe, for those who don't know who you are and tell us a little bit about, I guess, how you fit into the world of Rumble, and maybe just a bit of history and blabble on about Rumble and give it a good old plug, and
Sure.
we'll offshoot where we need to and hopefully get some questions.
Yep. Yeah, so we're a small specialty roastery in Kensington here in Melbourne. We've been going for just over 5 years now. And before that, so I have two business partners, Stan and Matt, and we've all been in the industry for quite some time. I mean, I've been making coffee for 20-something years in one way or another. Stan and I used to have an espresso bar together while Matt was roasting coffee for another company. He used to be a chef, we've run cafes and espresso bars and all that sort of stuff. And we've been roasting coffee now for 5 years. And it's been great. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Are you from the land of New Zealand by any chance?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Cool. So did you kick off your coffee career over there?
Yeah, I learned how to make coffee in New Zealand in like '99 maybe, and I was there making coffee in New Zealand for a couple of years because I was having a lot more fun making coffee, and I thought I'll just take a year off and make some coffee and have a good time. And I've never made it back to uni. Kept having a good time. And here we are. And it's such an amazing industry to be in that I just realized at one point that I could do whatever I wanted with my life inside of coffee, because it's just so big, and there's so much to it that you can kind of shape your own future to an extent. If you're lucky and you make the most of your opportunities and all that sort of stuff.
When did kind of the desire to kick off your own business, especially from coming from a barista brain? We've all kind of usually jumping around in a few jobs, think you could do it all, but you just don't ever jump. Did you jump with? Did you have some support with your mate? Is that how you met? Stan and the other business.
So when I first moved over here, I was very lucky. I had a couple of friends who'd moved over here first, and they were setting up a business. And I knew they wanted to set up a little espresso bar in the city, and I was like, oh yeah, cool. I just assumed I'd do some shifts for them, help them out, They invited me on board to be part of the business. So this was in like 2003. We opened our first little espresso bar.
In the city?
And in the city, yeah, on the Kellett Street in the city in 2003, long before it was cool to do so. Back when there was 5 or 6 Mazzocos in the whole of Melbourne. I mean, it was
right.
It was a very different world than it is now. And yeah, we did pretty well. It was pretty good, but it was really hard. So we had to learn. We learned everything. I mean, we knew nothing about business. So there was lots of mistakes along the way. We grew. We ended up having 4 or 5 little spots, which was really great. Some of them were awesome, some of them weren't. So, you know, it was never a huge success financially, but we learned like so much, and it was just, yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, great.
Are you Auckland or?
No, from Wellington.
From Wellington. There's, you tell me, the coffee industry down there, and I think from very naive, untravelled to New Zealand people like me, there's so much representation from New Zealand. It's been around for a long time too. Like, if anyone's just joined the coffee game, I mean, I started making coffees in Melbourne only maybe 10 years ago. But I noticed very quickly there was a lot of people from New Zealand coming over and having like a depth of coffee knowledge that was like, it was banging.
We never had a history of coffee in New Zealand. So like in the, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, there was like literally no espresso coffee in the country. So whereas like Melbourne got lots of like Greek and Italian immigrants that were here. So there was a big espresso sort of coffee drinking culture that was always been here. Whereas in New Zealand, we had none of that. So it was only till the 80s where people would travel overseas and bring back coffee machines, and then they'd start up these roasting businesses. So that's where people like, so in the early 90s, like Coffee Supreme, All Press, these sorts of companies were all started by people who'd been drinking coffee overseas, come back to New Zealand and gone, you know, we can do this thing. So when New Zealand caught on to coffee culture, it was kind of at the latest of the technology at the time. Whereas when I moved to Melbourne in 2002, everyone in Melbourne was still making coffee like it was, you know, kind of 1975.
Yeah.
And you know, I was to say I was disappointed with Melbourne coffee at the time was I remember my first job and no one knew how to change the grind. The barista would just do all the hands-free, like put the jug under and just walk away, and just I was just like, how do these people live like this? What is this? And it was just amazing.
Well, have you ever tried to tell an Italian or a Greek person to do something different?
Oh well, yeah. Well,
they ain't changing their coffee style, man. So.
Yeah.
No offense, please don't take that in an offensive way, but you know, Italy still makes coffees the way they still make coffees. But that's
what's fascinating for me now is that there's so many young Italian baristas who have come to Melbourne to learn how to make coffee and to go back home because they know they can't learn what they need to learn at home in Italy, the home of espresso. They're coming to Melbourne to work for a year and to learn from us to take it back. I mean, that's like, yeah, I mean, finally, you know, this is it.
Yeah. Although I've spoken this before in other one of these chats, I really love the predictability of Italy as well. Of course. You can go to the dodgiest joint ever, and there's an 80-year-old guy there just hanging on. He's been making coffees forever, and it's the same as having at the Visa checkout place, man. So.
Yeah,
it's nice to not give a shit, but yeah, you're right.
Exactly, and it's really consistent and reliable, and you know, and it's cheap. It's like €1, and it's just, you know, like it's all but you can't you can't reach the heights where we want coffee to be while doing those sorts of things. You need to put extra. You got to put the extra work in, you know, which is there's just no way around it. You need to have the better gear and the better knowledge and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So you guys opened up an espresso bar before, and then when did it click that you guys need to start roasting for yourself?
So Stan and I, we had an espresso bar that we opened in like, I don't know, must have been like 2009, 2010 maybe. And that was going really well. And I started roasting coffee for us. So I borrowed the roaster that Matt was working on one night a week and roasted coffee for us. And that was great. But we kind of realized, you know, you'd be making coffee by that stage, it had been 12 years or whatever. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life behind a coffee machine. I was just loving roasting coffee. And we felt we could offer something to cafe owners with our knowledge of cafes to help them run better businesses, because we saw that so many cafes were like driven by passion, but not by knowledge of the business side of how to actually run a cafe and make a living out of it, which is the hardest part about the industry is, you know, it's easy to make great coffee, relatively. It's really hard to have a great business that survives and that provides for you and your family and for your staff and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so we thought we could do great coffee and provide great service to customers on that level.
I mean, we're not talking about, sorry, Joe, we're not talking about 30 years ago. We're talking about 2010.
I know.
It's a bit of a, I don't know, wake-up call, bit of a surprise going, I wouldn't have thought in 2010 with the roasters, I mean, a lot have improved and grown tremendously over the last 10 years. There's a lot of growth in the last 9-10 years. But even 2010, I started a little shop then, and there was a good depth of knowledgeable, transparent roasters around that were very willing to train up their clients. But did you just see some things that, did you see that was the market so big at the time, or did you want to do something differently?
We want to do something differently, and we just saw that people were just getting...
Keep talking.
No, that's we just saw that people were getting into the industry by because there was so little. There's so little information. Like in the last 5 years, there's been a lot of information about roasting. Up until when I learned how to roast, we did a roasting course at Silo, which is like the first roasting course that, to my knowledge, had been done at the time. But there was no books, no websites. There was nothing. It was just traditionally you were taught by some old roaster who didn't actually know what he was doing. So he couldn't actually teach you that much. So, I mean, roasting wasn't actually really that good. So we saw that, and it was a similar thing with the business of coffee, of selling coffee, that people were getting into it driven by the passion. But once they got there and opened up their shop, like passion can only take you so far. And it's like, shit, how do we actually sell more coffee? I mean, we still don't talk enough about actually selling coffee. You know, you got to sell it. You got to know how to talk about it. You got to know how to get it into people's hands. You know, for me, I mean, like, making the coffee, actually brewing a cup of coffee. You know, that's all well and good, but you need to do it lots of times. You need to sell other things with it. And what really saddens me at the moment with the whole situation around the coronavirus and everyone's businesses being closed and stuff is just how quickly so many businesses have hit the wall, like just like that. You know, it's like, okay, we have to close or your customers can't come in, and within a few weeks people are like, that's it, they cannot continue to operate. And that is an indicator of how hard things are. Like, it's not as though everyone's sitting around on these big cash buffers so they can just, oh yeah, that's cool, we'll take a month off and everything's going to be fine. No, it's like, oh shit, my customers aren't here, I can't pay rent next week. You know, like,
good point.
So for me, that's just like the industry. It's not healthy. It wasn't healthy when things were good, and now that we're in this major problem, all of those issues have just going to, you know, they've come right to the surface. And when we come back and bounce back, we just got to change it. You know, it just has to be different. Because
touch on that cesspool of the world. Where would you start on a macro level, I guess?
We've got to, and it's I mean, we're relatively lucky in coffee, in that coffee is, and it's an affordable luxury that people can have every day for a few bucks, you know. So no matter how bad it gets, and Melbourne, everyone loves their coffee, plus it's addictive. So, you know, we're always going to be able to sell coffee, but we don't charge enough for it. The prices of a cup of coffee, a latte in Melbourne CBD, I was selling lattes for just under $4 in 2003. Yeah, it's still the same price that you pay for a latte now. And if you try and pay more, you get attacked for it. How dare you? As though it's the customer has this right to only pay. It's not the truth, you know. And so we have this whole thing with transparency, where we disclose what we pay for the coffees we buy, because we think we need to be open and honest about it as an industry. So the growers should be getting paid well. The staff who are making coffee should be getting paid well on the books and everything should be above board. The owner should be making a profit. That should just all be like, that's just normal. That's how business works. It shouldn't be like, oh,
yeah.
oh my God, you know? Yeah, yeah, it's the way that the industry is perceived, I find, is unhealthy. Yeah, and we need to change it, and everybody's to blame. We're to blame. Like, it's a whole. You can't just fix it overnight. But like, if you look at the fine dining sort of restaurant scene, I mean, they're in major. We've got problems there, and I mean, I don't know how they are going to come back anytime soon from this. Yeah. So in coffee, we're lucky. It's still not good where we are, but it's better than some other industries, I think, or other parts of the industry. Yeah.
That's huge. I'm going to definitely chop that little bit of content up and reproduce that, because I think that's spot on. And it's direct. It's direct to everyone involved. So consumers shouldn't come back. Hopefully the people that listen to this that are consumers go, shit, well, okay. It'd be better, I think, that we prep them up and tell them, hey, when you come back.
Yeah, things are going to have to, I mean, there's going to be less. I mean, look, we've had customers who've closed their doors. We know plenty of people. It depends on where you are. So we've got suburban cafes we work with who are doing a great business because no one's going to the city anymore. So they're all at home in their suburbs, drinking lots of coffee, going for a walk, and that's awesome. But if you're in the city and you had a great cafe that was doing, 30, 40, 50, 60 kilos a week and employing lots of staff, that's it's probably closed, or it might be just doing a tiny little bit at the moment. So those guys, like it's for them to come back, it has to be different. It's just not going to work otherwise. Yeah.
We're talking about something that's going to happen in the next month or two by the feel of it, I think. So
yeah, you'd think so. Yeah.
Who's kicking this off? Like, are you just going to sit there and go? Like, are people going to come back and go? The cafe owners are in, as you say, they're already against the wall. They're pinned against the wall. They're in debt. They've probably got a lot of things on tick at the moment. And you're going to come back. Is the roaster going to come back and go, all right, let's just see how things go over the next month. See if the consumer patterns start coming in straight away. Yeah. People actually want to stop making coffee at home because everyone now knows how to brew at home like a pro, apparently.
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Just watched a couple of filter videos and now they're brewing at home, saving themselves $4.50. People are going to want to socialise more than ever.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's going to override. They won't, and everyone will get rushed again. So who sets the tone?
I don't know. I mean, we don't have because we don't have like an espresso bar, so it's like, it's something I think that the industry kind of leaders have to do it, and you see the people do it anyway. So like 7 Seeds and Market Lane charge more for coffee than just about anybody, and it's their own coffee that they're roasting for themselves, so their margin on it's better than the other cafes. They don't, and because they value their product so highly, they've never undersold it, so they've always stood by it because they know to do what they do by the great coffee that they do and continue, they know what they need to charge. But the rest of, everyone else is just kind of like fighting because people think that they're competing with 7-Eleven down the road. We can get a cup of coffee for $1, whereas we need to sell the idea that it's not all the same. Coffee's not just coffee, and that when you when you go to a good cafe and have a latte, you're not just paying for the coffee, you're getting the great space that you're in, the amazing service, you've probably got free Wi-Fi and a glass of sparkling water, like it shouldn't be just $4, there's no way.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah, so I find it's really exciting. For all that it's very scary, I think it's a very exciting time for the industry.
Hey, the time's now, isn't it? The time's now. Yeah. Like this is it. We've never been gifted a bigger opportunity to go. Yeah. Everyone's got signs on their doors when they come back. New price menu, bitches. We're doing this. And sorry, we have to. You understand now. Everyone understands.
Yeah, and we just need to do a better job of telling that story of of why, why? Because, and people have never understood how, it's only come out in the last year or two around wages and how people get looked after. People have never seen how semi-legitimate the hospitality industry has been for so long, because they assume it's an industry like the industry that they work in, where everything's above board. Whereas hospo for so long has been running on cash, and it's been all so with that let people get away with everything. But if you're paying now, you're going to pay your staff all above board, do everything properly, pay them award rates, on the weekends, all that sort of stuff. You can't do that and charge so little for a cup of coffee. Yeah, it just doesn't work. So I think we need to sell that story of like, here's the cup of coffee, and this is where it kind of all goes to, and you need to pay $5 if you want your barista to be looked after, and the coffee grower, and everybody to be looked after. It just has to, there has to be a bit more spent. And it's still only $5. It's not like,
I know. If you're a coffee addict and you can't afford $5 4 times a day, then do have one at home, and then come and say hello to me in the morning. Don't rip it up. Don't rip everyone's heart out by going, well, stuff you, I'm going over the road to you spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on. Yeah, you're right though. It is. I like thinking of it as exciting. Very nerve-wracking for a lot of operators. I imagine
it's terrifying. I mean, for us, we lost a lot of our customers closed. Some of them are now reopening. But we saw a massive drop, and we just had to suddenly pivot towards doing lots of like local delivery. We've been delivering lots of coffee to the locals in our local suburbs, like free delivery, taking orders over the phone. Just, we just developed that over like a day, basically. And it was just like, oh shit, how are we going to sell coffee when nobody's, our orders are just plummeting? Right. It's very scary, but it's also, we're in a great position because we sell a product that we can dispatch all over the city and the country. If you're in a spot where you're tied to that location, and suddenly the people who are coming are no longer coming, but you have to pay whatever outrageous rent you were paying in the city, and maybe you bought the business a year or two ago and you're still paying off the loan or whatever. I mean, it's just so unfair. I mean, I know people who have had their whole existence just taken away from them, and others who are doing pretty well. And there's no, it's just pure luck, and no one could have prepared for it like this. It's crazy times.
I saw a question up here. Engen, actually an owner of 2 cafes, one on Burke, one on Collins. In the long term, what do you think will change with the coffee industry?
I mean,
I wise one with your crystal ball.
I'd like to say I'd like to say that obviously people who are left, and most places are going to come back, but they might not be able to come back for long, because if they find, long term, if less people are going into the city, people aren't going to want to catch public transport. Even if we are allowed to kind of do more, people are still, if they can, are going to continue to work from home. So those places in the city, like Engen, I know Engen, and he's got 2 great places in the city who must have a lot less traffic than he did 2 months ago. Exactly. I don't know. I think we need to relook at how we do business, where we do it. Leases is going to have to change. You can't, you can't be charging the landlords in the cities can't charge what they used to charge, because the foot traffic's, it's just not there. Is that going to come back?
Hey, that's true.
So getting a spot in the city costs a fortune, and it's purely based on those numbers, on the mass of people that are around you. And the people aren't there anymore. So is your landlord going, oh no, don't worry about it, you only need to pay, a tenth of what you were paying? Probably not. I'm
going to get I'm going to get some chats with some landlords over the next few chats.
You definitely should.
I think you hit the nail on the head for at least an obvious solution would be for landlords to charge less rent. Everyone would benefit from that.
And have it based on there might be more like profit share arrangements, or so that
Yeah.
as things go up, they get a piece of that there. But there's, if you were paying, say you're paying 100 grand in rent, and your customer dropped by 90%,
Sure.
should you still be paying, and I know obviously the landlords have their own, they've still got to pay for, as long as they just had these
exactly.
properties. So it all
Yeah.
flows along. I can only see our little part of the world. I can't kind of see everything else. Yeah, exactly. There's a question there now. I mean, it's such a snowball effect, and this thing, it'll just be going. We'll see it playing out over the next months, months to years, depending on how we get a handle on everything.
Was there any?
I mean, the government.
There was chat around landlord banks. I've seen. Have you heard much stuff about banks and whether or not they're giving much resistance or flexibility on loan repayments and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, the banks are doing. I mean, I've heard that they are. You can defer payments, but I mean, the thing with deferring payments is if you're still going to pay it. If you're pushing it back for 6 months, and then you come back and you have to pay double. I mean, if you were in a position where if you're in a spot where you're only just getting by anyway, and then suddenly you come back and you have to pay, maybe it's 1.5 times your rent for X amount of time, or like, I just can't see that working in those high. And I'm talking about the city. The CBDs are the area that I'm talking about, where the rents were the highest, and I think they're just going to have to be, renegotiations of leases. Otherwise, they're just going to lose all their tenants or lots of tenants, and then when they come in, and we're going to have to renegotiate so much. I just can't see it working any other way. And it means there's going to be a lot of people who are going to have a really hard time. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Hey, tell us a little bit about Rumble. I'm just having a look at your website here. Rumble takes the pledge. You've got some really good community-focused, driven, big publications on your website. Anyway, tell us a little bit about the transparency report.
Yeah, so transparency is this international movement to, sort of disclose what you pay for your coffee, because there was a realization that the term specialty can be a very broad term that can cover a lot of sins. I mean, I can buy a coffee and pay, say, $5 a kilo for it green, or I can buy a coffee and pay $20 a kilo for it green, and it's still specialty. So the idea behind transparency was, let's talk about what's actually being paid so that we can help growers to get more. And it's not really about us so much, it's about the growers having access to that information. So various roasteries around the world, we all disclose the prices that we pay, and we share it in an international database. We then share that information with growers all around the world, so they can see what prices they could be getting for their coffees, because they might be getting, there might be someone who's in the province next door or whatever who is selling a similar coffee to them, but because he has better networks, he might get a lot more money. So if they can see that what's available for them, they can then start to kind of hopefully access those prices, because the coffee price has been at historic lows for a very long time. So growers are often getting less than it costs them to grow the damn coffee for the year, and they only get paid once a year. And they do the hardest part of the whole supply chain. Is growing coffee is really hard, backbreaking work, and they get paid so poorly for it. And we go around talking about specialty coffee this, and having these amazing coffee machines, and these, spending $500,000 on a fit out and all of that stuff. It's just so unfair. And using the term specialty just doesn't do enough. So that's what sort of transparency is about. It's about using the numbers rather than using just a term that can mean a lot of things.
Is Rumble going direct to the farmer at the moment with most of their stuff?
For a lot of our stuff, yeah. So we travel quite a bit to buy coffee. Well, we did when traveling was something you could do. I mean, so Matt, our head roaster, was he was supposed to be doing a conference in Honduras in March, yes, which got cancelled, just as things were getting quite crazy, as everything got cancelled. Talking on transparency, talking to lots of growers about it. And there's other roasteries in Australia. We were the very first to sign up, and then there's 7 Seeds do it now. There's other roasteries doing it. Like lots of great roasteries are getting on board, because it's a real issue that we in Melbourne and Australia, we've been talking the talk and not actually kind of following through. We say we buy these great coffees, but do we really? And where's that money going? And is it just one coffee that you buy? Anyone can buy one expensive coffee in the year and say and talk about it. But like, what's going in your blends, bro? What's going in that espresso blend? Because that's your real business. That's what you're doing tons and tons of. So that's the important piece. Yeah.
Did you get led to this kind of to this point where you needed to actually morally do this when you guys started? Did you find out, because you wouldn't have been, did you start with these ideas and go, bang, we're just never making a profit for a while because we're morally right? And
no, I mean, so we always think business, you should treat it like a business. So everybody should be making money out of it and making a good living out of it. And everybody works so hard. And once you start buying lots of coffee and you see how hard growers work, and they're working as hard as anybody and they're getting so little out of it, you start to see how unfair the whole system is. But they're still selling it's good coffee. So it just kind of leads you to think about these things, and then you meet more people and talk to them about it. And it just kind of develops. Because I just think, everybody should be able to run a great business and get a great living out of it. But when sometimes the structure is just so against people that it's just impossible. And then if you're lucky enough that you can do something better and talk about it, then I think you should. Yeah. And that's what fair trade was trying to do and all that. There's been lots of movements, but fair trade has its own issues, and fair trade's great, but it doesn't do kind of enough. And so I think you need to keep kind of improving and changing these things and get better at it.
Yeah. As a roaster, how do you guys work out who you supply to or not? And has it changed over the years? Did you set out brand is important, product placement is important? Brand's important, product placement's important. We now, for me, the most important thing is you have to, because we're a small business, there's 3 of us who own it, we've got a couple of staff, you've got to like your customers, and you've got to be really glad to see them every week, and you've got to want them to do well. So, it's a bit of a, when people come to you and you want to help them, grow their business, because that's what I get excited about, is helping them, grow these great businesses. But then it's about, do they want to buy the right equipment? We don't provide equipment. We don't want to hold our customers hostage, because we don't want to say to them, hey, I'm giving you 20 grand's worth of gear. You need to buy X amount of coffee from us every week or else. So we want to have people who are willing to commit to buy that right equipment, because it's your business, if you're not willing to invest that money in the right gear, are you as invested in the idea of making great coffee as you think you are? Or is it, if you think the roaster should provide you all the stuff, and then the roaster kind of gives you subpar coffee, you just kind of have to deal with it, Whereas for us, it's like, you buy the gear, we'll sell you great coffee. It's an open and transparent relationship. Yeah. If our coffee's not good enough, you let us know, and we have to be on the ball week after week, year after year. There's no way we can hide, the quality of our coffee. That's it. And we just try and treat customers as openly and honestly as we can. What's the roles that everyone plays in the? Is it you? You, Stan, and Matt? Is it?
Yeah. So Matt's our head roaster.
That's the roaster?
So Matt's the roaster. We've got Alex as well, who's does a lot of the roasting. Matt buys all of our green coffee. Stan does our training and lots of the dispatch. So he goes around and sees everybody every week.
Yeah, cool.
And I sell coffee. Yeah.
Was that just a matter of going, hey, look, we've got 3 of us here or 4 of us. You just go that way, learn that one. Or did you all kind of lead towards?
It's all. I mean, I thought I would do more roasting at the start, and it's just kind of our roles have just kind of we've gone where our interests have led us, I guess, and it helps that we have different interests. Like if we all wanted to do the same thing and no one to do the other thing, that would be yeah. So Matt does lots of our accounts and things like that because he's really good at that. So that's his. We've all got these own little areas that we have led towards. So yeah, it's worked out pretty well. Having great business partners is such an amazing asset. You know, like if it's just one of us, you know, it'd be like so hard. Whereas with 3 of you, you've always got 2 others to rely on, and you can kind of share the stress and the worry. If someone's freaking about one thing, you know, the other 2 are usually like, you know, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. It's a great way to do it. Yeah.
Hey, you rate PNG. I'm looking on your website here again. Does PNG have ethical barriers when dealing with those people? I mean, I'm a little bit aware of just Papua New Guinea in general, especially. How does it go? Do you guys favour PNG more than anyone else, or how do you guys?
The first year we're up and running, we developed a blend that had a PNG in it, our Shadow Boxer blend, which has been going ever since. So we've always had a coffee from PNG in there. So we've always been trying to get better coffee into this blend. And yeah, there's a lot of challenges with PNG. I mean, the infrastructure is just so tricky, you know, it's just so hard to when you don't have lots of roads and things like that. It's hard. It's not like you look at a country like Brazil, which has amazing coffee infrastructure, great machinery, lots of money behind it, blah, blah, blah. And then somewhere like PNG where has none of that. And it's so improving things is really, really tricky. But we've worked with a couple of different partners there. Matt visited last year. Yeah, and it's our closest kind of neighbor, and they do grow great coffee.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's this kind of undeveloped opportunity there for PNG but also for Australia. You know, like they could be growing like amazing coffee. But it's hard. Yeah. So we'd love to kind of.
Sorry, man.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been. Yeah, but it's not a great coffee culture, that's for sure. So
I always find that baffling.
Yeah.
Especially if there's a lot of farming over there, and you just imagine that. I mean, I guess Australia hasn't got any great roasting coffee, and we've got good cafes.
Yeah, and it's like lots of coffee. Traditionally, lots of growing. Origin countries, they always sold all their best coffee, so there was never any reason for them to have a great coffee culture at home because they sold all the best stuff. It's only now that you see in like Central and South America where there's great cafes opening up and a lot of their own, you know, because it's now worthwhile because they have a bigger coffee drinking population. So they make, you know, if they keep it at home and sell it, you know, they can make good margin on it. Whereas in the past, it was far better for them just to sell it all and just drink the bad stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Hey, give us a snapshot of Rumble in a kind of a timeline. How did you guys? Where was your major growth period? I mean, are you still seeing growth periods each year, quite substantially?
Yeah.
Was it slowed right down?
Well, I mean, it was. I think the year started off really well. Yeah.
I remember. You remember? What was Enfa's cafe called?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. What was his cafe?
I can't remember. I just went there to see Enfa.
Kalimba, yeah.
Kalimba, and he told me about you guys, and I had T-Roy Browns on Flinders Street, and he was going, "You got to get under these guys. They're cool cats. They're musos. They're cool." I'm like, I mean, but I remember that was kind of, and it's not far off from when you guys kicked off, and how did things go from there?
Yeah, he was. So I mean, our first customers were, you know, friends and people we knew in the industry, and you know, we caught a couple of lucky breaks, which was good. I mean, it's a tricky, it's a very competitive industry. Obviously, there's lots of roasters out there these days. So getting customers is really tricky. We're pretty good at holding on to the ones we've got, which we're really proud of. We really like to do everything we can to help people. But yeah, we've been growing steadily. The year was going really well until all of this happened. And now we've done really. We were about to do an espresso bar at the roastery, which we kind of put pause on, which we're going to start again, because now things are kind of stabilized, and we're selling lots of retail coffee there. So it's going to be like a training, like a showroom, espresso bar, training room type deal. So that should go really well. And then we'll just see what opportunities there are, you know, out the other side of this, which, I mean, it might be that we open up in the next few weeks and we go ahead, or do we have to pull back again? I mean, nobody really knows.
So you guys, you mentioned before that you guys are kind of hanging in there with a little bit of, you know, you're delivering around your areas. So is it literally you 3 or 4 taking coffee home and delivering it in your cars off to your local communities?
Yeah.
I love it.
So we've always, like, we've had a website. Our website does well, and then as things were starting up, a friend of a neighbour down the road called up and asked if she could make order some coffee and pay for it, and I did that, and I realised, hey, that was really easy. We should just do this now. So that's what we did. So, you know, and we just did some Facebook ads and put a page on our website, and so people call up, place the order, we roast it. The next day we drop it off. It's just in the 3 or 4 suburbs nearest to us. But it's been really good, and people are so supportive of it because they're at home. A lot of them, it's like they're making coffee at home for the first time ever, because they've always gone out to cafes, and so now they're really learning how to make coffee. And lots of them are having a really good time buying different coffees from us, you know, like each week trying different things. So it's been a really good opportunity to get out there and get coffee into people's hands, which is awesome. And it's been fun. Yeah. It's
a pretty general question, but it's always a good one for the people that I chat with to reflect on. What's the biggest, you've been around for long enough now. What's the biggest challenge for Rumble that you've faced and overcome in your, aside from current? You can't use Corona because everyone goes, right now, it sucks.
we might be in the middle of it. No, I mean, before this, we had a period where we were growing really well. We were kind of charging along, everything was going up, and then we had a patch where we lost quite a few customers in a really short period of time, for a variety of reasons, and it made us completely reassess our business and what we do and why we do it. And that's what led us towards transparency as well, is like, why?
Yeah, right.
How are we any different from any other roastery in Melbourne, or, you know, in Australia? So why would someone want to buy our coffee? And so we realized we wanted to start telling that story a lot more. And so it made us just totally change the way we communicate what we do and why we do it. You know, it was terrible at the time. But it was also probably the best thing that's happened to us, because we had to make these changes, which have led us to have a much better business now. But at the time, when you're losing customers it was for various reasons. So it wasn't as though like, oh, just one thing that you could change. It was like a few different things. You're like, oh, wow, what are we going to do? So at the time, it was horrible. But then once you've kind of made the changes, you're like, okay, well, I'm glad that happened then rather than later when it would have been worse. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, challenge. I love a challenge in business when you've overcome it. At the time, yeah, it can be very hard. It can be very hard.
It can knock you around. It can knock you around. And you can
especially
always,
when it's something, you know, it's hard not to take things personally when you have these connections with, you know, with people. It's like in a, you know, when you're running a cafe and you see one of your favorite customers drinking someone else's coffee across the road, and you're like, oh no, what have I done?
I had that so much because I was right on Flinders Street Station, walking down across to Crown Casino, so it was that runway there.
Yeah, cool.
And people would use it, stop by me, and there was a traffic light there. There's only so many options you can get to where they had to go. So some of them would literally, I knew they had to cross the other side but they would walk on the other side, walk all the way past old David Jones and Culture Kings, go out of the way, jaywalk across past my cafe just to avoid me. And I would be hurt. I'd be like, I thought we could communicate.
I know.
They were close buddies too, you know. It bothers you. And I'm sure you get addicted looking at them and go, where are they? It's still going. It's still going, little shit.
Yeah. It's hard not to take that personally, you know? Yeah.
Because and you're also, and one thing that's standing out with you and in particular, but like, you want to know, and you're really thirsty to know what's wrong with your business so you can fix it.
Oh,
quick sticks.
Yeah.
You're thirsty, like you said. You're thirsty to, like, you love coming out the other side. It's a real kind of pride, and that's why you're probably in the industry, because you're a better solution maker than a problem maker, you know.
Yeah, and you've just got to find, like, you know, you'd love to think that your business was perfect and there was nothing you could improve, and you could just keep charging on. That'd be great.
7-Eleven, when 7-Eleven bought out $1 coffees, I lost 20% of my business, and I was just like a 250 coffee, 200 coffee day, which was enough for me. I was like, man, really?
Yeah.
A buck.
And you know, for some people that's, you know, for a certain segment of the coffee drinking kind of population, for them that's enough. A coffee at $1, that's kind of all they want. And so I think we need to kind of realize that's for them, and we need to be more different and have it for us over here, and tell that story about why, you know, like it's not just all the same. You know, you go get your coffee for $1, that's cool. I'm going to go over here and have this amazing cup of coffee from this great knowledgeable barista who, you know, really knows what he's doing. Yeah, that's the dream anyway.
Joe, we're going to wrap things up, mate. And I just want to say it's been a real pleasure to talk to you. You've got a real, like I just touched on then, a real solutions-based aura about you, which most of the people that I've talked to generally have been the owner of their business, and they've shown that as well. But it's good to see it within a team environment. You're impressive, man, and you represent Rumble well.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much. It's been great fun. Thank you.
Yeah, cool, mate. And we'll speak to you soon.
All right. Thanks, bro. See ya. Bye.
See ya.